began like so many other encounters. Had with a supposition the Enigma Empire, an old power stretching across the stars, had seen and shattered countless species. In their eyes, humanity was no different. Just another upstart species from a distant blue planet too tiny to pose any genuine menace. Their messengers arrived, swiftly carrying a message loaded with superiority. Abandon your settlements near our borders or suffer the repercussions. Humanity's response was measured, succinct, and as plain as their alien counterparts had been. Engage at your own risk. The Enigma found the answer almost amusing. They had witnessed human transmissions, seen their political squabbles, and noted their relative lack of galactic presence. As they viewed it, humans were like children playing with bits of technology they hardly comprehended, a little nuisance possibly, but barely a serious threat. Yet the humans had dared to reject their order, and such defiance could not go unanswered. Enigma strategists organized a show of force, one that would leave a distinct mark without decimating what they considered a potential source of future labor. They dispatched a fleet to the borders of human-controlled space, planning to engage in a swift, decisive assault that would set an example there. Ships glided through the void, each bristling with weaponry that had subdued entire galaxies. They anticipated a swift, effortless submission. The fleet's first encounter with humans occurred near a colony stationed on a barren moon orbiting a gas giant. By Enigma standards, it was a small outpost housing mining operations and a research center. The Enigma general leading the assault had no intention of bargaining. Instead, he authorized a quick strike targeting the human defenses. Blinding rays and surges of energy hurtled toward the colony with lethal precision. However, instead of collapsing under pressure, the human defenses held just long enough. As their shields buckled, a second line of reinforcements materialized. Agile human ships, each modified with a blend of plasma-powered technology, caught the Enigma sensors off guard. They weaved and darted, firing volleys that impacted harder than the Enigma anticipated, destroying one of their lead ships. It was the first of several surprises that day. Signals crackled as the Enigma commander scoffed at what he saw as laughable resistance. He ordered a complete attack, intending to wipe out the entire outpost in a single blow. Yet the humans seemed to anticipate every maneuver, countering with near-perfect timing. Their defensive strategies were complex, reacting quickly to the eye. Enigma's tactics, humanity's knowledge of their own inherent flaws, allowed them to leverage the overconfidence of their attackers. The Enigma's faith in their supremacy began to waver. Every technique they launched was met with a counter, an intelligent, calculated response. Their advanced shielding was breached in ways that should have been impossible. Human ships displayed a resilience that defied their externally unremarkable construction. It was more than just skill. Humanity battled with an intensity rarely witnessed in other species. Their forces didn't withdraw in panic or disperse under pressure. They regrouped, adapted, and hit back with terrifying precision. As the skirmish dragged on longer than anticipated, the Enigma leaders grew irritated. They had not expected this level of opposition, but even in their frustration, they fooled themselves into thinking this was just a fluke, a minor setback in what would ultimately be a quick conquest. Before withdrawing, the humans delivered one final transmission to the Enigma fleet. You were told, we do not seek conflict, but we will defend what is ours. The Enigma command found the idea of facing a real threat from such a tiny power laughable. Yet as they withdrew, they couldn't shake the unease lingering among their ranks. It was as though they had encountered something more profound, something that, while appearing inconsequential, held a hidden weight. Back on their home worlds, the Enigma High Command studied the reports with rising interest. The data was indisputable. Humanity had weathered a force that would have easily subdued others. Their resilience and ingenuity were unsettling, even if no one dared to voice it. aloud for the first time in centuries. The Enigma Empire felt something, surprising something unpleasant, a sensation their ancient pride had no name for. Humanity had drawn a line, and they had made it clear any attempt to cross it would not go unchallenged. But the Enigma Empire's pride had been bruised. They could not let humanity's defiance stand unpunished. Driven by fury, the Empire returned, determined to exhibit their supremacy once and for all. This time, they dispatched a significantly larger fleet. One meant not simply to suppress, but to obliterate. They meant to teach humanity a lesson that would echo across the stars for millennia. As their fleet approached human-controlled space, the Enigma command expected a reasonably basic confrontation, but humanity had not been idle since the last encounter. They had scrutinized every detail, researched the Enigma's maneuvers, and altered their defenses accordingly. They knew the Empire would return in greater force, and they had prepared to meet them head-on. The first wave of Enigma ships arrived, unleashing a torrent of firepower that lit up the darkness. Shock waves rippling across human colonies. The Enigma commanders expected chaos, dread, desperation. Instead, they were welcomed with silence, and then a synchronized counterattack. Defenses might shatter under such overwhelming force. The Enigma expected that crushing momentum to force terror into human hearts, driving them to surrender. But as the conflict unfolded, humanity displayed a level of cunning that the Enigma were unprepared for. Instead of trying to hold every site, human forces tactically retreated, abandoning lesser places to focus on strategic ones. The Enigma advanced only to find they were being channeled into specific zones, squeezed into confined sectors of space where their numbers offered less of an advantage. Once in these sectors, the human fleets closed in with precision strikes, isolating and targeting Enigma ships one by one. In addition to their smaller ships, humanity launched a new generation of battleships, ones that hadn't been seen in prior skirmishes. These weren't the artifacts that the Enigma had learned to expect. Prepared with quantum-powered cannons and advanced stealth technology, these ships hit hard and disappeared, leaving the Enigma scrambling to respond to an enemy that was everywhere and nowhere. Notwithstanding their size, the human ships moved with unnerving grace, hitting in fast succession and then vanishing into the expanse, avoiding Enigma counter fire with ease. Every new tactic and countermeasure the Enigma attempted was confronted by human cleverness. Humanity's ability to analyze and predict the Enigma's approach was relentless. They had researched every formation, examined every assault pattern, and prepared for each maneuver, directed by AI that adapted with each combat. Human ships operated with a level of precision and efficiency that made the Enigma feel as though they were battling an enemy who knew their every thought. The Enigma leaders, who had always flourished on order and discipline, were soon losing control of their forces. Panic began to ripple through the ranks as they witnessed ship after ship fall into human traps and ambushes. Their communication channels were hacked, leaving Enigma forces bewildered as humanity disseminated fake commands, luring them into even more precarious positions. The Empire was caught in a maelstrom of human-led chaos, bewildered and fragmented. Annoyance developed into panic as the Enigma realized this wasn't simply about human technology or strategy. It was their resolve. Human warriors and leaders battled as if their very existence depended on it. No surrender, no hesitation. Even as Enigma soldiers tore through civilian regions, humanity retaliated tenfold, relentless in defending their people and their home. The Enigma had faced tremendous enemies before, but nothing like this, nothing with this sheer indomitable spirit. Amid the carnage, humanity's tactics escalated. Further guerrilla warfare tactics kept the big, slower Enigma ships chasing. Shadow's decoy fleets led them astray, squandering their energy and resources, while hidden flotillas would rise from the darkness, raining devastation on vulnerable sectors. For every inch the Enigma gained, humanity took back 2 each. Time the Enigma regrouped human fleets, would strike at their blind spots waves of fighters designed to evade. Traditional scans slipped through Enigma, formations dealing critical damage, before vanishing back into obscurity. It was as if humanity was everywhere, leveraging the vastness of space as their battlefield, driving the Enigma into a continual state of retreat and reevaluation. Enigma commanders ultimately encountered the truth none dared to voice: they were losing control. Their overwhelming numbers, their advanced technology, none of it mattered against an opponent that violated every convention. Human forces displayed an unsettling readiness to give everything to safeguard their people and repel the invaders, a determination that bordered on madness. In the eyes of the Enigma, news of the battles relayed back to Enigma High Command, packed with footage of devastation, humiliating defeats, and chaos. The Empire's leaders grew uneasy, realizing this was no ordinary conflict. They had assumed humanity would crumble under pressure, would surrender to their dominance, but humanity didn't merely defend. They responded with an intensity and unity that no amount of training could replicate. This wasn't just a war for territory, it was a fight to ensure the Enigma would never cross human borders again. As the conflict carried on, the once confident Enigma troops began to falter, their morale eroding in the face of this unrelenting enemy. Humanity's relentless adaptive strategies left them beaten, and disillusioned whispers began to circulate among Enigma commanders. Perhaps this conflict was unwinnable. The humans, they realized, weren't fighting as mere soldiers. They fought as if they were defending the very core of their existence.